Good evening, TNR fans, and welcome to the World Center of Racing, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for tonight's broadcast of the TNR Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue Lawn Service at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Tonight is going to be a great race, a unique race, the only road course of the season, and we'll have it all for you right here on the World Racing Network. I'm Mitchell Adams, joined as always this week by Garrett Gleason. And Garrett, this place is going to be a challenge for these drivers. I went out and took some laps. I think you said you did too. This is going to be like nothing else these guys do all year.
It's great to be here in Indianapolis, and this is going to be so much fun. I'm used to driving this track the opposite direction, running the oval, or the NASCAR oval for lack of a better term, and these guys are heading in the opposite direction. A lot of twists and turns, and some guys are treating this as like, I don't want to say a mulligan, but they're here, they're just going to do their best, whatever. And there's guys like Philip Scott and others who come to a road course and they expect to win, and there's going to be a balance out there. You just hope that one of the guys that are here just to get through the race don't get in your way and ruin your chance at the victory.
You talked about Philip Scott. He's at the top of the practice chart for a lot of this practice, and you and I coming into this week, we both said Philip probably one of your favorites, if not the favorite, to win this race. Currently looking at the practice chart, since we went live, he's actually been knocked down to third. This is DJ Weeks on your screen now. He sits second place in the practice times. First, Johnny Eckert, last week's race winner, trying to pick up right where he left off, but 40 laps at this place, Garrett. You can't just be fast in practice, have a good qualifying run, and then cruise away to the win. You got to work at this track every single lap, because these cars are very much on edge from what we would normally expect at an oval. You have to fight with this car all the way around to try and get it to stick in the racetrack. And if you watch the lap guides we put out every week on the World Racing Network, you see I was really struggling with this race car. You can tell I haven't been behind the wheel of one of these things for a while, but even with these drivers who do it week in, week out, Garrett, it's just a challenge. You can't overstate how unique and different this track is compared to everything we do.
100%, and it's just about not taking a breath at all, Mitchell. You let your guard down for 1 second, this place will eat you up with this heavy stock car. These guys need to hit their marks lap after lap, but you also have to be aware of the factors between your tire wear, the fuel load. You'll have to start adjusting your shifting, your braking points, everything as these runs go on. You'll know how many times second gear is great, and then all of a sudden later in the run your tires are worn out and you're wheel hopping, spinning the tires, and you end up in the barrier. It's happened to me. I'm not a great road racer, but not all these guys are great road racers, Mitchell. So it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, the difference in where these guys start slowing down as the run goes on.
And like you said, very different. We also have a different format here tonight. We'll go ahead and take you through that in pre-race. So I believe any time now we're going to be transitioning into qualifying. And that is going to be group qualifying tonight, Garrett. It's not like what we normally do, which is the single car, take 2 laps and qualify. You get to go out with everybody else and run in this qualifying session. 10 minutes. Do they still get 2 laps, or is it just a free-for-all 10 minute?
10 minutes, do whatever you can. You can get, run about 1:30, so they give it, about 5 laps there if it's good, but you're not going to use 5-lap old tires to put your hot lap out there, so I expect these guys to try to bust off a hot lap and then maybe get back to the pits, and I'm guessing about 3 laps for some of these guys, Mitchell, but I guess we're going to see, because like you said, this is the first time we've come to a road course this year, first time with group qualifying this season, so our guess is as good as everyone else's that's tuning in here on the World Racing Network.
So the group qualifying will certainly be different here tonight, and you also get, instead of the normal stage caution where we throw the yellow full course and just reset everything, we're going to have a rolling stage caution here tonight, or not a caution, I guess. We're just going to take it lap 15. All the stage points for the top 8 are going to get locked, but we're going to continue racing because that reflects some rule changes that NASCAR has done in real life. So we keep it realistic here in TNR, but you see the field transitioning over to group qualifying. 10 minutes now. These guys can do whatever they want to lay down the fastest lap they can, and 10 minutes from now we'll know who is your pole sitter. But you've been talking to these guys, Garrett. Who would you point out tonight as being a favorite here at the road course?
Well, after last week, I don't want to say anything about the 90 of Johnny Eckhart, the 97 of DJ Weeks, because these guys came onto the scene last week and absolutely dominated. They are here, and even though we thought, well, I'll blame myself, we thought John Eckhart was the truck series driver, John Eckhart, who raced at TNR, but it's definitely not him. But still, it's nice to have the number 90 on that track. But I talked to a lot of guys in the garage area, and a lot of people were pointing at that 99 of Philip Scott. They think that he is the most consistent out there. I heard a lot of guys watching his telemetry and in-car, trying to see where his shifting points were. And if that's the case, then consistency is key at these road courses. If he can consistently run, the 131 5s, and other guys are running, 131 3, and then all of a sudden they're running the 133, Philip's going to pull away. And that's what I'm looking for, Mitchell, is that 99 just to be more consistent than everyone else. But these road courses, fuel and pit strategy come into play a lot quicker and more often than you think.
Well, and that's a big key to this race. You talk about consistency and how important that's going to be. This is a race where you might make a mistake every 2 or 3 laps just because these cars are so slick, they're out of control. But the driver who minimizes those mistakes is probably going to be up in contention for the lead, because you're going to get a lot of other drivers around you making some mistakes here tonight. You see Philip Scott in the number 99, the World Ninja League machine. We're actually going to go on board with Philip here. He's in the middle of his lap, but you'll get a good sense of kind of this racetrack. He's going pretty slow right now, Garrett. He's getting ready to take his hot lap. Through these final 2 corners, this, in my opinion, in the laps I drove, I don't know about you, but I thought this was the hardest section of the racetrack, trying to get the throttle down through these slow corners. See here, Philip throttles it up down the front straightaway, and some lap times probably going to start to come in here shortly. We'll keep you posted on that too. We'll see where he brakes at about that second sign, hard on the brakes, getting the car down into this first corner. And again, Garrett, it's just a challenge of getting the throttle down through these low banked corners. Stock cars don't like corners with little to no banking on them, and that's really what makes this track so challenging. You see how many low speed flat corners there are here on the Indy road course.
Yeah, low speed and flat, and Mitchell, like, these casual race fans are probably thinking, like, what's so different about a road race compared to an oval race? Well, on an oval, every corner is an opportunity to pass. At a road course, you don't have that opportunity, especially a place here like the Indianapolis road course where it's so flat and narrow at times. You're not going to be able to overtake someone. So it's all about getting close enough to set them up and get into these passing zones. And we'll actually see one coming up here where Phillips, as he's making his lap, that you'll have a chance to not necessarily dive bomb someone, but use that momentum and make it too wide and try to make it stick.
Yeah, 14 turns here on this road course, but really there's only 3 or 4 good passing zones on this racetrack. You have turn number 1, that heavy braking zone down what is normally the front straightaway, and it's still the front straightaway, but it's reversed from what we would normally expect. You also get that long back straightaway kind of in the middle of the course headed into turn number 7 right when they go under the bridge. And then that last set of corners you talked about transitioning back onto the oval, that's turn number 12 when they dive it back down into the track. Those 3 are going to be your big passing zones, because those are your heavy braking zones. And on road courses, that's where you want to try and set your passes up. So this set of corners Phillips in right now, this little left-hander right into the right, that little chicane, going to be really critical to launch yourself down this straightaway here, because this braking zone here into turn number 7, that's, I think, going to be one of your better passing opportunities, because you're going to have guys completely miss that chicane, and you and I both know, Garrett, how easy that is to do, and you're just kind of a sitting duck all the way down that straightaway. It's a tough set of corners right in the middle of the racetrack.
Yeah, this place will eat you up and spit you out, Mitchell, and like you said, it's just it truly is incredible seeing these guys out here like manhandle these very heavy stock cars on this flat track, and it shows what type of talent we have here in the Total Nonstop Racing League. And I believe that was John Cannizzaro is top of the board, the Wild Child. This track sort of fits his nickname.
Yes, he is. We were just about to go to that. The Wild Child himself, John Cannizzaro, at the top of the speed charts right now with a 130.691. That beats Philip Scott by just about a tenth and a half. They're quite a ways in front of Johnny Eckert, Tristan Thuggy Maher, the only other two drivers within a second of now Philip Scott, who takes over the pole position. He passes John Cannizzaro by about 0.2 of a second. Johnny Eckert's going off-roading here a little bit. Actually, that's the road to get to pit road. It's an unusual pit entrance here, not like what you would normally see either. It's one of those pit roads. You gotta commit a couple turns before you get to the start-finish line in that front straightaway. It's not like what we're used to in NASCAR world. This Jake Bustos in the number 74, currently 8th on the speed charts, about 2 seconds behind Philip Scott. And that's something, Garrett, you also have to get used to on these big road courses. The times are not going to be as tight as we're used to seeing here. If you look up at the top of the screen, you can see those gaps up to the pole time. There's going to be a lot bigger time differences because there's 14 turns as opposed to 4, really 2 sort of on normal ovals we go to. So there's a lot more room for error on a road course than there is on, say, an oval. And that's what we continue to talk about, the challenge this track presents.
Absolutely, and I'm not going to ruin our broadcast by any means, Mitchell, but these cars will get spaced out. There are no yellow flags to bunch this field back up, and guys will make mistakes, and you'll probably see a, I don't know, 3 or 4 car breakaway of guys that are consistent every lap, and then you'll just see guys out there making laps, and that's part of this type of racing, is that if you don't make a mistake, you might have a good night and get yourself a top 5 finish. Somebody like Vincent Valvano, for example, Mitchell, is a guy that I know is a good road racer, has speed, but I don't expect him to be running in the podium positions. But if you said at the end of the night, Vinny's got a top 5, 100% I believe it, because he will be smooth out there, he won't make mistakes, he won't beat himself. Tristan Maher, for example, always makes mistakes and beats himself. I'm just kidding, but you get my point.
He almost took the motorcycle track around there. That's what that little bit of track we're not racing on is here tonight. That's the motorcycle layout to this Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the infield road course. This track has undergone a lot of changes over the years too, specifically with these road courses. The original Grand Prix layout came about in the year 2000. It lasted for about 8 years before they changed it again, and in 2008 we switched it, and then in 2014 we switched it again to what you see today. So this track has constantly evolved, and we see that in this new iRacing scan that's relatively new. This hasn't been out too long ago. It's a lot prettier looking than the old Indianapolis Motor Speedway we raced with for a long time here on the Sims. So it's very pretty to see. It's a lot nicer to look at on a broadcast than the old bumpy gray concrete thing we used to have. So just under a minute left in qualifying to seg off that. And it's still Philip Scott out at the front of the field, and Philip out taking time. You notice John Cannizzaro put his hot lap down, and then he hasn't been out since, really, to try and take that time. But Philip is still out on track, cranking some laps. And if nothing else, Garrett, it's good practice before this race to just get more experience under your belt, because it's not like in practice or qualifying, you mess up, you can just reset and try again. Once that green flag flies, you got to live with whatever you do to that race car.
Absolutely, you got what you got. You end up putting in the fence in turn 1. Your day's over with, Mitchell. So get out there and take every opportunity to make laps, make times, try something different in this corner here. Maybe shift it a little bit differently, and just this way I'm like a broken record on this channel talking about adding to your notebook, but that's what you're doing here too. You're adding, oh yeah, I can hit the rumble strips this hard, let me try a little harder. Oh, that's too much, I'm in the infield. Just so you know, you don't want to ruin somebody's race, and you certainly don't want to ruin your own as we finish up qualifying here.
Yeah, and this is something a little bit different too from what we normally do. Time has expired on the qualifying session, but drivers get to finish whatever lap they're on. So there are still going to be some times trickling in, even though the qualifying session is actually over with. You see Philip Scott about to come around the racetrack and try and put a lap down. We'll see if anybody else has what it takes to knock Philip. Here's a track map that's going to come in pretty handy here tonight. You see Philip not knocking that time, and pretty much everybody now comes to a rest. You got James Lorello out on the track working a lap. He is the only driver who has yet to complete, or he's completed a lap, but that completes his final lap. See if Lorello can pick it up. He does by about a second. That moves James Lorello up into the 9th position in front of Paul Bilson. And that will conclude our qualifying session. Wait for the system to switch itself over into race mode. I think it's going to make us wait about 45 more seconds, but that gives us a chance to shift ourselves now from qualifying into race. So if you're these drivers, Garrett, you've just been doing practice and qualifying, and like I said, you get resets. What do you do here in this little short break between qualifying and the race to mentally prepare yourself for what you're about to do? Because this first lap, there's going to be drivers going all over the place. How do you get yourself ready to go down into turn 1 for this first time?
Well, Mitchell, I'm going to get myself a nice drink here, because you're not going to be able to really take a leisurely sip of anything during the race, because you're going to have your hands full shifting and steering. I'm also going to make sure there's no distractions anywhere around me in the general area, because I need to focus. And other than that, Mitchell, if you're a religious man, you're going to pray and hope that you can keep it on the asphalt all night long, because if not, Mitchell, I don't know what else I could tell these guys. Wipe the sweat off the steering wheel too, because as I'm sure you're aware, you're a lot better shape than I am, but these races get intense. I usually have a puddle underneath me by the end of these things.
Yeah, road courses, by the time you get done with this, your arms are going to be tired. You will be sweating a little bit from just how hard you tense up and grip that wheel. You're exactly right. And with the shifting you talked about and all that, these are very physical races. You don't really think about that in sim racing, but it is true. You got to relax, and you've just got to let yourself drive your race. We're going to take a look through the field, look at the starting order here for the Indy Road Course, what we've deemed the Indy Road Course 100, a little shy of 100 miles, but it is close enough for us. It is the number 99 of Philip Scott starting things off from the pole position. The wild child, John Cannizzaro, to his outside, starting in second. Then in row number 2, it's going to be Johnny Eckert, last week's race winner, with Tristan Thuggy Maher in that 17 to his outside. Taking a look at row number 3, it's Bill Edwards in the S2R number 5 machine, and DJ Weeks rolling off in 6th. Vincent Valvano starts things off from 7th, and Jake Bustos rolls off 8th. Rounding out your top 10, James Lorello in 9th, and Paul Bilson in 10th place. Then in the rest of the field, it's the 28 of Jamar Dumas starting in 11th. Bob Giaquinto in the tabletop trio machine rolls off in 12th. Robert Tripp 13th. Jason Schue 14th. Matthew Rodriguez back tonight for the road course starts 15th. 16th, Mike Floppy Tellier. And 17th should be Johnny Williams in the number 9. And that is still, Garrett, a decent field size for a road course. Typically, these races, the field kind of a little bit smaller. Not everyone wants to run these road races, but a good turnout here tonight in TNR. These guys ready to race this track.
Yeah, it's nice to see, Mitchell, and I just want to give our well wishes to Steven Doziak. He's actually recovering from a collapsed lung after his girlfriend fell on top of him. So, Doze, our thoughts and prayers are with you, but we hope to have you back next week for Daytona.
Before we get things started, and while I'm remembering to talk about it, we have a little game if you were watching at home or whatever. We like to call it the over-under. Like we've talked about, this track, very slick. And so we're taking a little bit of a guessing game. The number is, oh, what did we say before this? I think it was 4.5. Did I say over under? How many spins will we catch on the broadcast? Do you think that number is over or under 4.5? Put your guesses in the chat, and we'll see who wins by the end of this thing. Remember, we have to see it on screen. Spins we don't see don't count. And I think, Garrett, you've got the highest chance of getting that number to go up on this first lap and probably through these first 2 or 3 corners. And once you get there, I would expect it to probably settle down a little bit, unless you're the wild child up here who's going to be going after the 99 of Philip Scott here in the opening laps. But you look up front, and these are a bunch of really fast drivers, and the whole field is, but a lot of the guys I would have picked to be really good on the road course, they're up inside this top 5, top 10 here. You got a couple guys I know love road courses a little bit back further in the field. I'm watching Paul Bilson and that 00 and 10th. I know Paul loves road courses, and he's driven quite a bit of them, has some experience. So we'll see if he can make his way up through the field. But it's a wild card here tonight. You really don't know what to expect out of this race.
No, you don't know what to expect, and you just said everything perfectly, Mitchell, but I'm keeping my eye on this front row. If I think of aggressive drivers that I have shared the track with, the 99 and the 18 are 2 of the absolute most aggressive guys, and I don't see anyone lifting here going into turn 1, and that's going to make this really exciting, and I can't wait to get this green flag in the air. And you mentioned a couple times about Paul Bilson, and that's going to be a sleeper for me to keep an eye on. I did not know his road racing credentials, so that's somebody I'm going to be rooting for.
Yeah, I know it was Paul's teammate a couple of years ago over in NSRA. I know he loves road courses, and he's run a lot of them, and these are races he always circles on his calendar. I know he looks forward to these, and he beat me on a road course back when, so I know he's pretty good at it. So, yeah, that's my sleeper pick here. I wouldn't have said he was a sleeper, but starting back in 10th, I'm keeping my eye on him. Meanwhile, you see that pace car has pulled off pit road, and we are getting ready to go green flag racing for 40 laps at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Green flag in the air, and you see the tires spinning already way back in the pack. 3 wide down into turn number 1. Philip Scott up the inside. John Cannizzaro in the middle there, creeping down into turn number 1, and Philip Scott clear out front, but John Cannizzaro already hot on the heels of that World Ninja League number 99 machine.
Well, good start for Phil Scott, and if you're him, you don't expect anyone to get anywhere close to you the rest of the race. You want to start pulling away here slowly from that 18 and not see another car until you start lapping people. But John Cannizzaro doesn't give up easy, and like the saying goes, you can't fix stupid, and I mean this in the nicest way. He'll be as stupid as he needs to be out there to win a race.
When you saw Philip Scott took a very defensive line there into turn number 7, entered way lower, made John Cannizzaro have to go to the outside, and would have had to drive around him on the outside if he wanted it. And you see Philip able to hold the position. If these drivers stay close, we'll probably see more defensive driving like that. Philip Scott, a very crafty road racer, knows how to hold that position, and you saw it there, but he goes a little bit wide in turn number 12, and that opens the door for John Cannizzaro to slide through and take the race lead. And Philip Scott, he's struggling to get back into second. Johnny Eckert gets around him, and Tristan Thuggy Maher up the inside. Philip Scott drops from first to 4th in a matter of 3 corners.
Mistakes will kill you at these places, Mitchell, and we talked about keeping it on the asphalt, and even in who I would consider an expert road racer such as Philip Scott made that mistake early on, but plenty of laps to get this number 99 World Ninja League machine back into contention. But Tristan Maher, a guy that I've seen lead, and I believe I've seen him win races at road courses, so someone who I don't consider a road race ace, but not surprised seeing that number 17 up in 4th place this early on.
Yeah, Tristan's not shabby on the road courses. I remember back when I was driving in NSRA with him, we had some good battles on the road courses, so I would definitely expect him to be running up front consistently here today. You see him right on the bumper of Philip Scott, pushing him off into turn number 7. Again, that one of the big passing zones here in today's race. You're going to see a lot of attempts probably into that corner, and still Tristan right on the bumper of Philip Scott, not giving him an inch as they head back onto the oval, hard on the brakes, dipping down into the road course once again. All over the curb too is Tristan, and that's going to be one of those things that's driver preference. How do you use those curbs to get around this track? Most of them are kind of the flatter rumble strips you see right there, but there's a couple like into turn number 1, into turn number 12. You just saw the 17 hit. Those are a lot more elevated off the racetrack. We'd almost call those sausage curbs, or the turtles we used to call them in Charlotte. Those things can bump your car all sorts of out of shape, so you don't want to use them too much. You see the 17 again gets quite the fur piece of those. You may want to stay off them too much, because iRacing can sometimes be a little bit silly and give you a little bit of damage from that.
Yeah, you don't want to take that chance, Mitchell, like you said, and do any long-term damage to your race car, especially without the opportunity to get a yellow flag, get in there and get it fixed. So it's a fine balance, like you alluded to, of using those curbs to help turn the race car and hitting them too hard and damaging the race car. I've always been too much. I've always hit them too hard, and I've always paid for it later on. So these guys are certainly a lot better than me, and I expect them to find that balance. But sometimes you see them hit it here live on the broadcast, and you'll think, oh, that might have done some damage. Well, you're probably right.
Yeah, and it's so unpredictable sometimes, the sim. The 51 of Matthew Rodriguez getting word he's towing it back to the garage. At 51, sitting in pit road with a ton of rear end damage. We'll take a look and see if we can find what happened to the 51 of Matthew Rodriguez. Oh, he went for a bit of a ride. I think he was a little bit tired of the Indy road course. Pow!
Can we see that again, Mitchell? We gotta see that at least once more time. I love Matthew Rodriguez for this. He provides so much entertainment, and I saw him dive bombing early on as soon as he got the green flag. And yeah, you're right. He said, I've had enough. Let me put on a show for the kids. It's almost like having an air show without having the Blue Angels flying overhead, Mitchell. Awesome job, Matt Rod, and I expect him next week at Daytona to be one of the leading contenders. So get on that plane, go get some rest, and we'll see you at Daytona next week.
Well, they do that at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They have the Red Bull Air Races come here. I think they still do that. Matthew Rodriguez might have confused this for those air races. Pretty fun to watch. I don't know if they still televise those either, but they're pretty entertaining to watch. They do that here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, among many other things. Yeah, I think Matthew Rodriguez, safe to say he's probably done for the day. Meanwhile, we continue out at the front of the field. It is the wild child, John Cannizzaro. Haven't seen him consistently this season. He's made a couple appearances here and there, but tonight has been a very good run for John. He's been fast in practice, was fast in qualifying too, started up on the front row, and then you see him here, took the lead on lap number 1, and so far he hasn't looked back from it.
Kind of surprising to see the 18 out there being smooth and pulling away and just not being the wild child we expect him to be. But John Canizzaro's a tremendous driver and a very good road racer. So seeing him with this big of lead is not as much a surprise as you might think. But those two cars behind them are nipping away at it, Mitchell. I don't know if we have lap times, if they're gaining or he's pulling away. He certainly looks like he's maintaining that gap. If not, Philip Scott seems to be getting a little closer to the 90 here as we watch these battles up towards the front.
My graphics a little too low. Let's drag that up. Last time by, John Cannizzaro was the fastest car on the racetrack by about 0.6 of a second. Johnny Eckert in second place. And then right behind them, Philip Scott much closer. He was 0.2 slower than John Cannizzaro, but he's reeling in Johnny Eckert for the second place position. It's been much smoother, more consistent times for Philip Scott. Ever since that first lap, he's really settled in. He got around Tristan Maher, and he's been slowly running down this 90 here, and I would expect in a couple of laps, you're probably going to have a battle on your hands for the second place position. Speaking of battles, wrong camera. These two have been pretty close. I put the cameras on them a little bit earlier. The 47 of Mike Floppy Tellier, 64 of Vincent Valvano. They've been running very close to each other for the last probably 3 or 4 laps, similar lap times. Haven't really built up a gap between them. You see Jake Bustos there is actually in between those two now. I believe Floppy, no, excuse me, Bustos got around Valvano's. Vincent goes for a little bit. The slide there in turn number 13, now 14, back onto the oval. This, in my opinion, was the most difficult corner when I was taking laps, because the car does not like the transition from that road course up onto the oval. Very long, sweeping corner, and it hits the, when I was running, it wanted to upshift in the middle of the corner, and usually at those high RPMs, the car really does not like going through corners like that, and even if you shift, that change in RPM is going to unsettle the car. So that last corner, very treacherous, but you see these three bumper to bumper to bumper here as they worked through the infield section of this track.
This looks like fun, Mitchell, and I talked to Floppy, Mike Tellier, before the race, and he was running like 2-minute laps. I said, Mike, what's going on? You sandbagging? They said, no, but I'm just horrible here. But a fan of AJ Allmendinger, who is a road race king, seeing Mike get better lap after lap here is not surprising, as we see Vinny, who I predicted would not make a mistake, making a little bit of a mistake there, but not much harm done, as we're going to take a look here at the World Racing Network replay.
Yeah, we got to take a look at the littlest things here. We got to keep you entertained here. So I think really, I don't know if he was getting in hot. He was definitely going to hit Mike Tellier. I think he was going into the corner a little too hard anyways. I thought maybe the 47 was just a little bit slowed up in front of him, but that I don't think was the case. I think Vinny was getting in a little bit hot, and you see lost a little bit of time now. He's only about, well, lap time's just updated, and he's 6 seconds off of Jake Bustos, so a little bit more than it was showing at first. But Vinny Valvano started in 7th, now running 11th, so not quite the start he wanted, but it's still been some consistent lap times. Check back up at the front of this field, not much change. John Cannizzaro about a 3/4 of a second lead over Johnny Eckert, and I remind you that this is race number 6 of the season, and we have a streak going where everybody wins 2 races in a row. Start the season, Mike Tellier won 2 in a row, then J.D. Laird won 2 in a row. Last week's race winner is Johnny Eckert. He runs in 2nd place right now, so if Johnny wins tonight's race, it would mean that we had 3 back-to-back winners to kick off the season. I can't remember a time anything like that happened in iRacing or real life to my knowledge, so it'd be very interesting. He's definitely up in contention, Garrett, but he's got 2 fast cars right with him in John Cannizzaro and Philip Scott that are going to make him work for it here tonight.
Mitchell, you know what could really blow our minds is next week at Daytona we are doing a double header, and if Johnny wins this race, whoever wins the first race of the double header next week could have that opportunity in the second race, and you could do it all in one night, Mitchell, here live on the World Racing Network. How incredible would that be?
That would be very, very crazy. Like you said, next week, the Daytona doubleheader. That's going to be a great race all in itself. Make sure to tune back in for that if you're watching. Taking a look out at the chat, Johnny Williams, he's not there tonight, so I was wrong. He was showing up on the scoring. He also picked the over on 4.5 spins. I don't think we're to 4.5 spins yet, so we got a while left. I don't know that we've seen much in this race. I would actually categorize as a spin. We've seen some drivers blow some corners here and there, but no real spinners on the racetrack that we've noticed. So they're doing a really good job out there. You've also got the Windsors saying good luck, Bill, and also taking the over on the 4.5. And Matthew Rodriguez says he had no business running with 0 laps of practice, so figured he'd give the kids in the splash zone some souvenirs, and he did a great job of that. Certainly 10 out of 10 from the judges here. You're looking at the battle for the race lead now. John Cannizzaro got reeled in by the 90 of Eckert and the 99 of Philip Scott. Eckert goes to the inside, too wide. Will Philip Scott make it 3? I think he thought better of it. Yes, he did. It looked, Garrett, for a second like Philip Scott was going to make this 3 wide into turn number 1, but decides to settle it down. You see Jason Schue coming out of pit road now. And Johnny Eckert, though, new race leader in that number 90. Oh, John Cannizzaro. I think they might have made contact there. Going through that corner now, through the chicane onto this. I want to call this the back straightaway. I don't know if that is the proper term to use, but onto this long straightaway here in the middle of the racetrack. But these three, you couldn't stick much in between these cars. These three right under a blanket here battling for the race lead.
Mitchell, I wish I had a camera on me and you would have seen the smile on my face when Philip looked to the inside there in the front stretch. The old Philip Scott, the less mature as a racer Philip Scott, would have made it 3 wide there and forced somebody's hand. The new Philip Scott, the maturity, knows he can't win the race here on lap 9. Looked a little bit, got back in the line, and set himself up here to get in the second place as Cannizzaro falls in the third. So now we'll see what that 99 has for that 90 of Johnny Eckert. And I think Philip has the speed. He was able to catch him from third to second. Now that the 90's in the lead and there's nobody in between them, I'm going to keep an eye and see if that 99 could close the gap here on that 90 once again.
Yeah, and like you said, Philip Scott, it took almost another lap, but he got around the 18 of John Cannizzaro, who's really falling off the pace now. He's dropped a significant amount of time to these race leaders. And I wonder if that's just John maybe trying to use a little too much tire to get through these corners, working them a little bit too hard, and now in the longer run, struggling a little bit with the handle of that race car and having to back off a little bit to make some of these corners. We'll ride on board with that number 18 of John Cannizzaro. I mean, it's tough to tell, Garrett, because they work the wheel a ton anyways, but you can still kind of get an idea what sort of condition John's dealing with as he shifts down to first gear into turn number 7. See, that's where, again, in that lap guide we put out earlier today, I was using second gear through these corners because I didn't want to spin it on the lap guide video, and I thought it handled fine, but John took first gear, so there's a lot of different things you can do as a race car driver to prepare yourself and to really set the car up to handle more like you want it to. Again, first gear through that corner, whereas I ran second, so that is one of the interesting things about road courses. You get a lot of different options you wouldn't traditionally get because we rarely ever shift gears on ovals.
Yeah, absolutely, Mitchell. There's more than one way to go about this. And John's definitely struggling with his handle, maybe some tire wear there in the number 18 machine. And speaking of the number 18 machine, I just want to give condolences to Jimbo for that Eagles loss last night. And I hope he's okay, and I hope his wife took all the sharp objects away from him at the house. Jimbo, that was a tough one, but you made it there. And if it's any consolation, the Eagles cost me about $1,200, so just at least you can laugh about that, bud.
I wasn't going to call you out for that bet you placed, and I saw that. It was a little bit of a rough night. A lot of people, I picked the Eagles too, not that I had a ton of money on that game, but I think a lot of people, with a hurt Patrick Mahomes, very surprised with how well the Kansas City Chiefs did in that second half. And I guess you can't be surprised because it's Patrick Mahomes, but it was definitely, I think, not the ending a lot of people thought that game would have for more reasons than one.
Yeah, it seemed like the Eagles defense did not make any halftime adjustments. And I know their stock, Peyton Manning said you don't make halftime adjustments, but in the Super Bowl, when they score a touchdown on a pretend motion essentially for Kadarius Toney and then run the exact same play to the opposite side of the field to Sky Moore, you would think that an NFL defensive coordinator would have that speech with his team. And unfortunately for the Eagles, and not to mention that I'm calling it a bad passing defensive holding call at the end of the game. Didn't seem like it was necessary at that point in time. The ball was pretty much uncatchable. By the rule, it was probably defensive holding, but I think they kind of robbed us of a good finish there, Mitchell. But I just hope everybody enjoyed the game and everybody got home safe, and they're watching on World Racing Network here tonight.
Yeah, we got a good battle for the lead right now. You see the 99 of Philip Scott putting some pressure onto Johnny Eckert for this race lead. And Philip, when he ran Johnny down, he has not gone further back than really half a second of this 90. He stayed right in his tire tracks the whole time. We'll go on board with Philip too, because we rode on board with John Cannizzaro, and I want to see the difference from Philip, because the thing I noticed for John exiting the corners, like onto these straightaways, especially onto that front stretch, he really couldn't get to the throttle that well, and I think that's where he's losing time to drivers like Philip Scott, Johnny Eckert, who are starting to pull away from him. And right here we'll see, if you listen in, how well Philip gets to the throttle. And you hear, you would think, Garrett, they're accelerating out through that corner, but you really don't accelerate that much back onto the oval, because you have to get onto the brakes so fast, and that transition again back onto the normal oval racing surface, it unsettles the car so much that you're not coasting, but you're definitely not putting full throttle back into that race car. And that's what we go into very technical road course racing. You have to do things you wouldn't necessarily think were logical and you might think would cost you time, but actually make more sense to get the overall lap time down.
That's why I always work with someone like yourself or Peter Short that can explain these things to me, Mitchell, because it's so technical and over my head that it would take me this entire broadcast to understand why these guys are doing the things they're doing and why these cars are behaving the way they're behaving. I'm just a get in the car and go and do my best type of guy, but that's why we're lucky to have you doing the play-by-play here tonight, as Philip Scott seems to be setting this 90 up and just waiting for the 90 of Johnny Eckert to make a mistake so he can pounce, because that 99 is there.
And we have to put emphasis again. Tonight, we're not doing a stage caution like we normally would. Tonight, we are doing a roll through the stage, but at lap 15, the top 8 will get stage points, but instead of doing the full course yellow, we are going to stay green, just like they're switched the rules to in real life. So these guys are racing here, 2 to go in the stage, even though they're going to stay green flag racing after that. You look at both of them in the points and think, man, they could really use those stage points here tonight over each other. Philip Scott in third right now to Bill Edwards in second, and JD Laird isn't here, and with the Coke Series starting up tonight, he probably isn't gonna be here that much anymore this season. And then you have Johnny Eckert, who ran his first race last week. He's looking to gather up some points. He's 24th right now after that one race, but I mean, he's definitely a contender, and those stage points, if he keeps running up front, he's going to find himself up toward the front of the playoff picture really quickly. And you've got now 1 lap to go in the stage race battle.
Yeah, we'll see how badly the 99, the 90 want this 8 points compared to 7 points for the stage break. And I just want to say, for anyone watching this broadcast who might think, man, I want to race TNR, but they're 6 races in, we give retroactive provisionals here in Total Nonstop Racing. So if you're watching on YouTube days after the race and you think this is a league you'd like to be in, come race next week. I'll give you our provisional points, which are half of last place points for each race, and we'll get you moving up the standings a little bit. So if you have a good rest of the season, you'll put yourself in the playoff contention. So something to keep in mind here. And this is a tremendous battle coming to lap 15. And like you said, as soon as you cross that line for lap 15 in first place, that's your 8 points. So only got a couple of corners left here for the 99.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see this battle going on here, lap 14, almost lap 15, between the 90 and the 99. I mean, typically as broadcasters, break kayfabe a little bit. We usually dread these races because, like you've said, they get so strung out over the run that, you know, it can be tough to sit here and talk for this long in these races. Garrett, you and I both know we've done this for a while. It's not always your favorite thing, but so far tonight, these TNR boys have not disappointed. And lap 15, you still see a battle going on for the race lead, so definitely keep it tuned in here. It's going to be a good night at the Indy Road Course. And I think we are at lap 15 around that stage break, so it's time to do a through the field, see where all your favorite drivers are running at the moment. We've been watching this battle for the race lead quite a while between the 90 and the 99. I'm going to keep it on down this straightaway, and if Philip doesn't make a move, we'll go ahead and move the camera somewhere else and ask him to put a pin in it. Looks like he's not, so we're going to go ahead and move back to John Cannizzaro in the number 18 machine, who runs in third place. Led a bunch of laps early, but he stabilized his pace. He's running back at nearer the pace the race leaders are doing, but he just lost so much time now. He's quite a bit back. In fourth place, Bill Edwards in the Fatal Concepts number 5 machine, doing a good, consistent race once again. That's been his characteristic all season. DJ Weeks in the 97, good run last week in his first start again. Solid top 5 so far this week. Then you have to look back 11 seconds to find the 17 of Tristan Thuggy Maher. Not having a bad night whatsoever, just being a little more calm and cautious, trying to get this car around the racetrack. James Lorello in the number 13 runs in 7th place. Actually, take that back. He just got passed by Jake Bustos, so Bustos in 7th, Lorello in 8th now. Mike Floppy Tellier moving himself up through the field from a 16th place starting position. He now runs in 9th. Bob Giaquinto rounds out the top 10 in the tabletop trio machine. Since we don't do cautions tonight, it's a good chance to thank our friends at Tabletop Trio for sponsoring the Lucky Dog Award this season. All the support they give, especially on a night where there are no cautions. 64 of Vincent Valvano now runs in 11th place. We highlighted him. Had some good battles earlier in the race. Paul Bilson in 12th. He struggled a little bit with it here. Stayed around the top 10 most of the race. Jamar Dumas runs in 13th as the tail car on the lead lap. Then still out there, 1 lap down, Robert Tripp in the 35, and 2 laps down is Jason Schue in the number 3, and then Matthew Rodriguez is out of the race here tonight. And that'll take you through the field and tuning back up to the race lead at just the right time, because Garrett Philip Scott making the move on Johnny Eckert.
He's got the position there, Mitchell, and that's key. He set him up, and he got that inside, and he's going to use up all the racetrack there, and the 90 makes a move to not run into the 99. But Philip did a very mature thing there, and he made the pass at a sensible time, didn't force it, and now we're going to see if he could put a little bit of a gap between him and that number 90 of Johnny Eckert before our upcoming pit stops here, Mitchell, somewhere around lap 20, I'm guessing. So guys that can't make it to lap 20, I'll be curious if they're going to have to stop again, but I think guys like Philip and Johnny Eckert, James Lorello looks like is in the pits right now, are going to try to make it a one-stop race.
You've got James Lorello down pit road, John Canizzaro's in the pits, Bill Edwards in pit lane as well. So a couple drivers who are running up front. Tristan Maher decides to take to pit road as well. Coming in for their stop, and we were hearing from the garage, probably a one-stop race, so lap 20 would be the expected time, but these drivers feel like they've got 4 more laps of fuel in the car than that. Taking a look at the lap times too, compared to the start of the race from the beginning, the fastest lap of the race was run by John Cannizzaro. That was a 1:31.2. Fastest, or excuse me, leader's last time by, Philip Scott ran a 1:35.1. There's about 3 to 4 seconds of fall off these drivers have seen over the course of the run. So significant tire wear here at Indianapolis. And that comes into the rear tires mostly burn off, and these drivers can't accelerate out of the corners. They have to be a lot more cautious on the throttle, and that leads to them just not being able to get out of the corners as fast as they can at the start of the run. You see neither of your leaders taking to pit road. That pit entrance, you got to commit really early on. We'll show you here on DJ Weeks. You got to turn right there. You see on the bottom of your screen, that's the pit entrance. So you have to commit in turn 13 to get into pit lane. Not many takers that time by. Of course, this field a little bit strung out at this point, so some drivers still, even in the top 5, it takes a little bit longer for them to get to pit road compared to these leaders. But what I'm noticing, Garrett, is Philip Scott really stretching out a lead quick over Johnny Eckert. That up to almost a second, in fact, a little over a second now out of that corner that Philip Scott's been able to pull out. And for the longest time, he ran right in the tire tracks of that 90, but now he's out for the lead, and he doesn't want to look back.
No, if you're Philip Scott, well, there goes Jason Schue cutting the grass. But if you're Philip Scott, you don't want to see another car the rest of the night, like I talked about early on. And Philip made his mistake early on, and he's hoping, Mitchell, that is the first and only mistake, and he could just get to his pit stop, not make a mistake, get into his stall, and just cruise to victory here at the Indy Road Course. And we're gonna watch James Lorello here. Oh, well, that's one way. That's like a half Rodriguez, we're gonna call that, Mitchell.
I noticed James, when Jason Schue had spun into the corner, I caught him out of the corner of my eye in that wall, and I thought maybe the two made contact or something, but there's just two completely separate incidents that Jason Schue really, I don't know if we can count that as a spin, because he was in the grass and that loosened it up, but yeah, he was in, and then you see James Lorello just blow by straight into the wall. But yeah, just two separate incidents that happened at the same time, and again, no cautions here tonight, so no yellow flag for those incidents. A lot more takers to pit road. You got Bob Giaquinto down on pit road. James Lorello, well, actually towed back to pit road. Jason Schue back onto pit lane once again. Those are the drivers who made their stop that most recent lap. Philip Scott continues to pull away from Johnny Eckert, and I'm no strategy genius. I'm no crew chief here, Garrett, but Johnny Eckert losing seconds a lap now to Philip Scott. I'm bringing that 90 down pit road this time. I don't want to stay out any longer on these tires, because maybe he's just worn them off a little too much, but whatever he's doing isn't working, and I want to put 4 fresh tires on that race car.
I 1000% agree with you there, Mitchell, and you're at the point now where you're gonna cross the pit road start finish line at halfway, so staying out, you're gonna get the same amount of your tires that you had on them to begin with here, and your fuel mileage should be just about the same. But Philip Scott has been able to keep the tires underneath that 99, and we have seen a drastic fall off from Johnny Eckert at this point, Mitchell, and that's something that now that pit stops are going to happen, if these two guys get bunched up again, could Philip just wait and see till the very end of the run coming to lap 40 to pull away from that 90?
And looking at the lap times here now, I don't know that it's so much Johnny Eckert falling off as much as it is Philip Scott is just finding lap time out of nowhere, really, in that car. We talked about him running 135s. The last 2 laps, Philip Scott has been in the 133s, so almost 2 seconds faster a lap than he'd been running. That's not the 90 falling off. That's Philip Scott just finding pace in this race car we hadn't seen in this long run. And you see Johnny Eckert, he's now 7 seconds behind Philip Scott. That's how quickly this 99 has just turned it up.
Mitchell, I was able to talk to Philip a little bit before the race. I just wanted to wish him all the success tonight, and in a way I was rooting for him to win. And we're impartial up here in the booth, but Philip's always a great guy and somebody I root for. And I said to Philip, I said, you have anything left in the tank? He goes, Garrett, I am so consistent late in the run. And watching him in the 90 battle there, Mitchell, I thought, yeah, he's consistent, but the 90 seems to be right there with him on consistency. I think our buddy Philip was using some ninja skills and sneaking up on the competition. He didn't show them everything he had, and now when it really matters, he's pulling away. But it looks like he's also pulling down pit road.
Yes, he is. The 99 of Philip Scott down pit road. You notice the 90 as well of Johnny Eckert. They both pit at the same time, so right at halfway, lap 20, scheduled pit stop. That's a strategy. They didn't flinch when those drivers behind them came down pit road. They had their plan set. I'm going to pit at lap 20, and they stuck to it. And we'll see DJ Weeks down pit road as well. We're going to watch the wild child here because he's had fresh tires a little bit longer. But you see, he's just now headed into turn number 12, so he's got a little ways left to go before he gets around to these drivers. It's not so much a talking point here in iRacing. It isn't normal, but it is a backwards pit road compared to what we would normally see. You turn right instead of turning left, and sometimes that does lead to drivers overshooting your pit stall, and you can't have that here on what is your one stop of the night, presumably. Philip Scott, you see him getting out of pit road. We'll check the Wild Child is down in turn number 1, so the early pit strategy has worked for now for John Cannizzaro. The question is, we saw him fall off significantly that first run. Did he learn how to stop that? And will he make a change in this second run? Because we've seen the exact opposite in Philip Scott. The long run pace was what really drove him up to the lead. And you have a battle of two different philosophies, but I don't want to poop on John Cannizzaro's parade for lack of a better term, but you got to race with no cautions, and you have the same, if not a little bit longer run this time for John Cannizzaro, so you've got to find a way to increase that long run pace if you want to be in contention for this race win.
Yeah, you're the Philadelphia Eagles right now if you're John Cannizzaro. Yeah, you're up at halftime, but bad things are coming in the way of that 99 of Philip Scott. He's not going to be able to hold on if that first run is any indication. The 99 is just too fast, too smooth, and too consistent. And John played a little bit of a strategy. It might get him a second or third place finish. It's not going to get him the win. I'm pretty safe saying that right now, Mitchell. And not that I ever root for John Cannizzaro, but I'd love for him to prove me wrong, John. So if you're listening, prove me wrong. But that 99 is already there, Mitchell.
Yeah, Philip Scott wasting no time whatsoever. You see the 90 of Johnny Eckert got a little bit of pop rocks or something on his front bumper. You see iRacing physics, and I'm guessing that's supposed to be the sun bouncing off the front right bumper, and now it's bouncing off the side. That's an interesting iRacing lighting thing. I hadn't noticed that before, but yeah, John Cannizzaro quickly run down by Philip, and you see him get really loose there coming out of turn number 4, and Philip right there coming onto this straightaway here. And this, I don't think Philip's quite close enough into the turn this time to make the lunge, but he is definitely there, putting the pressure on John Cannizzaro, which is exactly what he wants to do, because you want to make John burn those tires off, because you know that was his weakness in the last run. So Philip doing exactly what he needs to do. And to be completely honest with you, I think Philip almost wants to sit behind John for a little bit, make him work the wheel, make him push that car a little harder, because the more you do that, the worse he's probably going to get on the long run. And that's nothing against John. That's a tendency every racer's going to have to do, but you're just trying to kind of exploit that weakness you saw in that first run that 18 had.
I think, again, Mitchell, I know sometimes it seems like, oh, geez, Garrett's heads up his rear end, but you're really right here. You're Philip, you know you got the best car. Make John use up his stuff, and Philip's doing it right now, playing a little cat and mouse here with the 18 of John Cannizzaro. I'm going to look to your inside. John swings out for the block there, and now Philip's going to try to pounce here, and he'll set him up for the next corner. This is actually amazing racing, Mitchell, here on WRN. Two different strategies, two different skill sets type of drivers, and both very aggressive. And I don't think John's going to give it up too easy, but he might not have a choice.
He's going to battle him into the chicane and actually going to try and cross over Philip Scott, but I don't think he's got the momentum down the straightaway to make that pass. And you see again, Philip very crafty, blocks the inside lane, and that would make John drive up the outside lane, and he gets off. Actually, John Cannizzaro, I thought he had the bumper in for a second, but he didn't, and this has brought the 90 of Johnny Eckert right up into this battle too. But Philip, he very aggressive with the 18. That was a little more aggressive than I think I would have been in that position. You're just over halfway to go, but he definitely made it work, and now you've got the 90 of Johnny Eckert, who's going to do the exact same thing you wanted to do to John. He's going to sit right behind him, make him burn him up, and you saw the 18 again slid out of turn number 12, and that opened the door for the 90, but not going to get it clear, and they're going to go side by side through turn 14. The thing I was going to say, though, too, Garrett, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to John's credit, this is a race where you're sliding around, the tires are hot all the time. This plays into John Cannizzaro's racing skill book. I think you said that earlier in the race, but he's a dirt racer. He's used to sliding a car around a racetrack, and I think tonight that's probably helping him with the handling of the car, but at the same time, it kind of hurts him because you don't want to do too much of that because you heat the tires up a little too much. And I almost wonder if that's kind of what that 18 is, where that issue's coming from.
That's exactly what we're seeing here is too much heat in the tires, too much sliding around. And I've said it 5 times already. That's what you expect from John Cannizzaro. That's why he's the wild child. He's out there. He doesn't care if he uses the tires off in 2 laps. If he could put down the 2 best laps of anyone out there, that means something to the wild child. And this wasn't a race that I know he wanted to run it. I didn't expect him to win this race, but he's been impressive. And the strategy call was certainly an interesting one, and it had some excitement. And now we're gonna have to watch those 2 cars in front of him, because you never know, Mitchell. If they start bumping and banging, the wild child could get himself right back into this picture for the victory.
Yeah, it's still lap 24 or 40. There's a while left to go here, so you might see, these two battled a lot the last run, seeing that gap stay close again, the 90 running down Philip Scott a little bit. And to John's credit, he does have the fastest lap of this race, and it's not even close to anybody else. He ran a 1:31.2, we said that earlier. The next best lap of this race was Johnny Eckert, who ran a 1:31.9. So 0.7 of a second better. Not bad lap whatsoever for John Cannizzaro. And we saw that short run pace early. It's just Philip Scott, Johnny Eckert here doing a little bit better job this longer run and managing their tires. And that's really what Philip, we saw him. He had a lot more in the tank because he was so smooth through that run, and he wasn't pushing it to get around guys. And that's really where that speed comes from, as he's coming to lap Paul Bilson. Bilson runs in 10th right now, so Philip Scott will have lapped everyone 10th on back with that move there. And the 90 didn't catch him at as good a time. That hurt him a little bit.
Well, I guess you were looking for some sort of commentary from me there, Mitchell. I didn't really have much to add.
Well,
I was just taking a look here at our running order. I was trying to see if anyone had a bad pit stop, if some changes in the running order I was more so trying to look at. So you caught me off guard a little bit, and that's why we're not perfect here. But we're all enjoying a tremendous battle. And I couldn't even take my eyes off. I'm trying to look at the ticker, but I'm also seeing that the 90's getting kind of suspiciously close to that 99 for his liking, I'm sure.
Well, in your defense, Garrett, I had a little hiccup there, and I had to mute the mic quickly. So that wasn't as much a planned pause as I had to take a decent break, and then I'm like, oh, well, I'll just leave it cold and see if Garrett comes in. So we're getting a lot better at it 6 laps into the season. Our flow has definitely gotten a little bit better, but again, it's just it's progression throughout the whole season. See, we work at it here in the commentary, but we don't just sit up here and talk nonsense. Well, we might, but there's a little method to the madness sometimes. Not much, but...
Yeah, at my age, Mitchell, good flow is very important, and about 7 years from now, I'm going to have to go get my flow checked at the doctor at least once a year. So it is what it is, Mitchell. We're working on it. We always try to do our best, and we try to have fun here on the World Racing Network and provide you the best action possible. And this has been for a road course race, and not to say anything bad about other road course races we've had at TNR or that we've watched at NSRA or wherever, but this has been a fairly exciting one because the battle hasn't stopped here for the lead, and these guys back in the field, there's guys been moving up through the field. Mike started back there. He's moving some to the top 10. Bob was in the top 10. There are some guys putting together consistent runs, and that's what you look at if you're not a road course ace.
Yeah, and that's, like, I kind of talked about that earlier, too. Road course races tend to not be the most exciting. Usually they get really strung out, and there's nothing to talk about for 75% of the race. But even now, we've got a pretty good battle here for the lead. Johnny Eckert just about a second off the back bumper of Philip Scott. So this race certainly not over. Philip Scott definitely hasn't run away with this one. Michael Valvano in the chat wants to know where Vinny is finishing tonight and hopes we're having a great night in the booth. And also says not to bet against Mahomes. We'll check in on Vincent Valvano here. Running in the 9th position, currently the last car on the lead lap. Not too far behind Mike Floppy Tellier, about 10 seconds, but in road course time, that's not too bad. There's a decent battle up in front of him too, actually, between the 47. They're not too far behind Jake Bustos in the 74. That's about 3-second gap, which in road course time is not bad either, especially after this long into the race. There's really, other than that though, we're not looking at too many battles. You do have the 5 of Bill Edwards down pit road. That is interesting because he had already pit, so not a scheduled stop, I wouldn't say, for the 5. I think he had short pit Garrett, and maybe he didn't think he was good to the end. I don't know. I don't remember exactly when Bill pit, but interesting to see that 5 down pit road. Although he only lost 2 positions doing it, and he's right behind Jake Bustos, so that would mean 1, assuming he's going to make this pass on fresh tires. But that's an interesting stop for Bill. I don't know exactly what's bringing him down pit road, because I would have thought he'd have been okay no matter when he pit, but hey, we don't have all the data. We're not a crew chief, and Bill knows what he's doing on pit strategy. One of the best at working pit road.
Yeah, I think Bill, it's kind of like a mercy killing out there, Mitchell. He figured, I'm not going to try to run 20 laps and struggle on slick, worn tires. Let me make this a 2-stop race and just do whatever I can here to get a good finish. I have fresh tires. I'm going to try to run these guys down, and like you alluded to, he only lost 2 positions, could be 1 position here by making that stop, and these fresh tires might help him gain a spot. But that 90 is creeping up on this 99, and Philip is probably like a guy with a fly swatter in the summer trying to chew this gnat away from him, because there's nothing more annoying than seeing somebody constantly on your bumper lap after lap. And wow, look at that camera angle.
It's nice. I love these camera shots, the static cameras, what we call them in broadcast world, around the racetrack. And that one, that is a very nice shot you get. But this 90 ran Philip Scott down quite a bit. We left this battle for the lead. They had a decent, about a second gap, and then the scoring monitor started flashing at me. I don't know why it did that. It's never done that before. But Johnny Eckert was right on the bumper of Philip Scott, and that gap gotten a little bit bigger out of that corner. That's what Philip has been so good at. He just nails those exits onto the straightaways every time. But that 90 you see right there with him. Johnny Eckert, he's not going to give this up again. He wants to continue the streak of back-to-back winners. He wants to be the 3rd back-to-back winner this season in 6 races. See, they're starting to catch up to Bob Giaquinto to put him 2 laps down. RC Plains in the chat saying this is the kind of race Philip lives for. You know, he's having so much fun out there. And you are exactly right, too. Like we've talked about, Philip loves the road courses. You gotta actually switch it back just to see that other camera one more time. But yeah, Garrett, you can tell Philip Scott out front, he's in his element here at this Indy road course. This is a race Philip had circled on his schedule coming into this year.
Yep, and it's definitely the race that he expected to win. And it's not cocky when you have the skill and the consistency that Philip Scott has when you come to these road races. And a story for those that maybe you're just tuning in to TNR for the first time. We actually met Philip Scott as a league at a practice race at Watkins Glen. We were practicing for our upcoming Watkins Glen races, getting guys track time, and Philip hopped into the server, and I remember vividly he was driving a like Dale Jr. Craft throwback, and he was so fast, and we ended up becoming friends, and he's such a great guy, and I enjoy racing with him. And oh, look at Thuggy, where the heck did he come from there? As he's interrupted my story, but it's awesome to have Philip, and just from his TNR debut essentially being at a road course to getting a victory potentially at a road course, it would be a tremendous story for a tremendous driver.
I think Thuggy did about the same thing Bill Edwards did, and that was come down for tires once he saw Bill pit and a decent gap to the cars behind him. So that does put him a lap down now. He'll fall, I believe, to 8th once things all get settled out with scoring here. And yes, I'm right, running in 8th place. I'd never heard that story either about Philip Scott. See, this is what you learn when we sit for 40 laps on a road course and we have a lot more time to just talk and relax, you learn fun stories like that. So it's all, I guess, not all for loss. And of course, today's road course race, this, like we continue to say, a much better than you would typically expect from a stock car on an oval race here on iRacing, or stock car on a road course race, I mean to say. But, and I mean, we're still not done, and we're at the 75% completion mark this time. Philip Scott, he's starting to stretch that gap out a little bit more consistently. You can see it there down the straightaway, but certainly not out of it is Johnny Eckert. One slip up from Philip, and that 90 is right there by for the lead as John Cannizzaro, the wild child, down pit road.
Yeah, I guess John used up those tires there, Mitchell. He's gonna just another. They have an extra set of tires. You're out there struggling, come put a set on and salvage a finish. And I just want to pull back the curtain for everyone. You and I talked at the end of our race last week. I said, "Are you sure you want to broadcast this thing? Like, these races are pretty boring." Well, I'm glad to be up here with you in the booth because this has been worth the price of admission. And Johnny Eckert looking for the lead here on Philip Scott, and I believe he has the position. And Phillips,
ooh, hot into the corner. How he made that stick, I don't know. We're not done yet, though. Philip Scott trying to fight on the outside, but what a move from Johnny Eckert. It's still not done. Philip trying to fight back on the outside lane. Can Johnny get the power down? Yes, he can. Philip slips up the track a little bit. That was a power move from the 90 of Johnny Eckert. Let's go back and watch that one on the WRN replay, because you and I both, Garrett, that caught us off guard. Wasn't expecting that 90 to make a lunge down the straightaway. Getting this replay rewound. We'll go. You see him, Philip does the same thing, takes the inside, gets defensive, and Johnny says, you know what, we're just going to send it up the outside lane. And with as much time as there is on these tires, that is impressive to make that race car stick.
Mitchell, you know, everyone was talking about the NFL script, like, oh, that's how the Super Bowl's going to play out. It was almost like this was scripted because you and I were talking about excitement, and then Johnny Eckert makes this big, you-know-what move on the outside and makes it stick. I've never seen that pass before. I've never seen it happen. That is truly incredible, and I have a huge smile on my face. But if you're Philip Scott, you're a Philip Scott fan, just remember, the end of the last run is when Philip Scott still had something left for these guys. Philip might be thinking, okay, I see you. You made that move. You got the lead. I'm going to hunt you back down.
Yeah, cannot say enough how impressive that move was from Johnny. And even on fresh tires, too. That's not a move you would expect to see get completed. You know, Philip doesn't pull down the track and block that inside for nothing. That's a corner really you wouldn't expect that move to be made, Garrett. These tight corners here at Indianapolis, the outside lane very much unpreferred, but Johnny Eckert made it work there. Had a little slip up in the braking zone of that corner that let Philip get closed in a little bit. And you see, too, they're working through lap traffic right now, and that just adds another bit of intensity to this battle. You've got, try to get a visual who this is. I thought someone was out in front of Johnny Eckert. Oh, did Eckert get the wall? Oh, no, it was the 64 of Vinny Valvano got the wall out of the final corner. And you see the games down the straightaway, too. The pull into the inside. You expect to see that in the Indy 500, maybe not necessarily here on the road course, but these drivers, they're leaving it all on the racetrack. And again, 8 laps to go, and we've got an intense battle for the race lead.
Man, can you imagine if you fell asleep or missed any of this action, Mitchell? This is unbelievable. This race is going to get so many playbacks of guys wanting to see an exciting road course race, and this battle, like, I can't even look away from it, Mitchell, and I feel bad for the other guys in the field, but we can't take our camera away, and it's truly incredible. And that battle on the front stretch it's just a continuation. Lap after lap, we see a lap car getting out of the way, which is always great, but I don't know. Philip's got, 7+ laps here to go. Mitchell, you think he's going to have enough tire at the end?
Yeah, that was Robert Tripp in the 35. Just pulled off to the side, let these leaders go here. I think Philip, from what we saw in the last run, you have to assume he's got something in the reserve tank here for the end of the run. But There is another variable, and that's Tristan Maher sitting right behind the battle for the race lead. He's not racing for the position. Tristan's a lap down, but I talked about earlier with John Cannizzaro how when you sit right behind somebody, our racer's instinct is just to push a little bit harder when you've got that car in your mirror. And even though Tristan's not for position, Philip's still going to have that racer's instinct of, I've got somebody in my mirror, I need to push a little bit harder to stay in front of them. And that, I don't know if that's going to play a factor, but you have to keep it in consideration that Tristan's been running behind these guys most of this run, and that might make Philip drive this car a little bit different than he did. But this is about the point in that last run we saw that 99 really come to life. So I think we'll know in probably the next 3 or 4 laps if Philip Scott has that extra bit of grip in the reserve tank. But right now, Johnny Eckert doing a good job commanding this race lead. Philip's not that far back, but he's just got to run smooth, consistent laps, and that's exactly what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I think Tristan and Philip used to be teammates, and a couple of the, whether it's here at TNR and the SRA, and I'm pretty sure Tristan probably came over the radio and said, listen, Philip, I'm not going to jeopardize your chance at winning this race. Go get him, buddy. And that's no dig at Johnny Eckert, but he just came to TNR, so these guys are clearly going to be loyal to each other, and I don't expect that 17 to have an impact on this race. Now, if they both make mistakes or Philip makes a mistake, yeah, he's going to capitalize and set his sails, but I think right now the 17 will just run behind the 99 and root for his friend to make the pass for the win.
You see a little ways out in front of Johnny Eckert. I believe that's the 47 of Mike Floppy Tellier, who's just now diving into turn 1. That would be the next lap car these two have to get around. And you see Philip Scott closed in quite a bit into the braking zone. That's kind of what we saw Johnny Eckert do a couple laps ago, just beat Philip to the brakes. That time, Philip Scott really got through the braking zone. And you see the difference, too, where Philip kind of gets a little bit closer to Johnny, and then Johnny pulls it away a little bit through that corner. Then here on the straightaway, about dead even, I think Johnny Eckert did a little bit better job through the chicane that time by. But see, Philip, again, gets closer into the braking zone, and then Johnny takes a much wider entry into the corner, but he pulls it out a little bit. Then Philip closes it in again on the brakes, and then Johnny gets to the throttle a little bit quicker and pulls it out slightly, and that seems to be the pattern these two seem to have right now. Which would you like better, Garrett, in these closing laps of the race? Do you want to be able to get on the brakes better, or do you want to be able to drive off the corner better?
I think I want it to be able to stick off the corner, Mitchell, carry some momentum, especially down these 2 long straightaways we have. Yeah, braking is great, but I feel like I could make up more time with being able to accelerate and keep the speed on a straightaway such as this one, the front stretch.
I'm in the same camp as you are. I think what makes this track so unique is these 2 massive straightaways. And you got a lot of tight corners, which it's good to have braking through there, but the biggest passing zones are going to be at the end of the straightaways. And with that drive off, it's going to allow you to set yourself up for a pass. And the ideal combination, you've got both of them, and you're just faster than everyone else. But usually we tend to see one or the other because it's just about how you approach the race. The 90 took a big slide through that chicane. I wonder if Philip Scott's going to have some momentum into turn number 7. He is. Philip definitely with the run. Goes to the outside of Johnny Eckert. You see him sideways on the brakes. Eckert hits the curb, and Philip Scott up the inside lane into turn number 8. Philip has to check it up on the inside. Johnny really pinched him down and made that 99 get loose, and he holds the position. What a battle, Garrett, with just a handful of laps to go.
That was a mature battle too, Mitchell. The 99 could have forced the issue there, but he backed off, and he's going to try to re-rack him and get back to that 90s bumper. And I think, and it's an uneducated opinion, I think it is only a matter of time. The 99 should be able to make this pass. And once he gets ahead of the 90, I would expect him to pull away a little bit, but there's not much race left, and it's not really going to matter. It's making that pass, but You got to give it to Johnny Eckert. He is giving it everything he has, and I did not think this late in the run he would be able to stay in front of that 99.
Passing that 90, a very big if. We saw there Johnny Eckert very crafty defending that position, and I agree. I liked Philip backing off there. He was getting pushed pretty hard by the 90, and that's just really good, clean racing. Nothing bad at all about that, but you said there's still 4 laps to go in this race. Back off. This is when you would expect your car to really come in compared to the 90. So go ahead and sit here, let yourself, and let the car come to you. But you see Johnny pulled it back out a little bit, and there's not too much lap traffic off in front of these guys. Let's pull up the track map. You see there in turn number 11, I believe that's the 74 of Jake Bustos, the 6th place car. That would be the next car these drivers catch. You see him going through turn 10 right now. I don't know if they're going to get to Bustos by the end of this race. If they do, you would expect that 74 to just pull over and let him race, but sometimes it's not a position on the track where you can do that. So again, that's another variable. Do they catch that lap car, and does that play a factor? But right now, Garrett, they're not thinking about catching a lap car. These two are driving every bit of this racetrack they can and trying to squeeze every bit of these lap times out of it they can. Still right on each other's bumper, coming to 3 laps to go as they cross the bricks.
I'm just wondering if that phrase dive bomb is going to come into play. These guys have kept it clean so far, but as these laps wind down, sometimes you just have to take that opportunity and hope it sticks. But so far, Philip Scott being very conservative on entry there, just trying to set him up, hoping that 90 makes a mistake. And wow, Mitchell, I keep saying it, but this has been a fantastic race.
It really has. This TNR all season here in the Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue Lawn Service, it has not disappointed whatsoever. Every race has been a great race, and even the road course. This has been a phenomenal race, and we're seeing very crafty racing from Philip Scott and Johnny Eckert here for the race lead. And you see Philip falls off a little bit, trying to cool his tires down, and then he's going to go make another lunge at the 90 you would expect here. Because we know Philip in the last run, he was a lot quicker on the last couple of laps. But again, he didn't get quicker until he got around that 90. That's the big hurdle you've got to cross, is you've got to get around Johnny Eckert, and Philip slides it out of the corner. Wow, he sent it out of turn number 11, and he got almost to the bumper of the 90. That 99, he's starting to say, okay, time's out. Now it's time to go. And you saw it there. He just put the throttle down, hoped it stuck, and it did. And that puts him closer again to the 90 of Johnny Eckert.
Well, laps are winding down, Mitchell. The give and take is coming to an end. And I think hopefully these guys keep it clean. And when we interview them at the end of the race here, if they stay in first and second, they're going to say what a absolute blast they had racing with each other. And it might even be the most fun they ever had on the road course. And look at that 99. Is he going to get there? Not through this set of corners. Going to have to try to keep the gap to a minimum through this flat section. It seems like Philip is a little better at other sections of the racetrack. He lost a little bit of speed, a little bit of time last time through here. But right now, he's right there where he needs to be to set him up for the pass.
And he just needs Johnny even to just have to lift the throttle a little bit out of that chicane or out of the final corner, and that'll set him up to be able to make the pass. But that 90 has to slip up for you to be able to do that. Philip's strength seems to be in turns like 2, 3, 4, those kind of tighter, narrow corners. Even through here, he seems to be a little bit better than the 90, but that drive off onto the long straightaways, and even like here, driving off into this high-speed section of the track, that's what allows Johnny Eckert to really keep himself up in the race lead. And you see Philip, how much deeper he can get in on the brakes, but the 90 just able to make up for that on the other end of the corner, getting off. And Garrett, coming to 1 lap to go. Buckle your seatbelts, guys. This is going to be one heck of a finish here as Philip Scott gets really close again to Eckert. White flag flies. 1 lap to go from Indianapolis.
1 lap to go, Mitchell, and maybe 3 or 4 passing opportunities. Here's one coming up here. Will the 99 force the issue here into turn 1? Doesn't look like he has it there, but he'll try to set him up for a sweep through these S's.
Philip Scott doesn't make the move into turn number 1, now through 2. These really flat technical corners here. This has been Philip Scott's strength. He's got to keep it close to the 90, and again, charging in on the brakes into turn number 4. Got to get the power down here. Out of turn number 6, onto this long straightaway. The 90 gets out just a little bit better than Philip, but Philip's got the draft. Into turn number 7, this is the other really good passing opportunity. Tries to make the move, can't quite get there though, and Johnny Eckert stays out front. Just a handful more corners left to go.
Mitchell, he's there, but he's not there, if that makes any sense. And well, he's there now, Mitchell, and there's a little bit of contact, but that's what you're expecting. That's clean contact, and they're going to have a little bit of a drag race, and this is incredible.
3 more corners side by side, back onto the oval. 3 corners left into 12. Johnny Eckert on the outside. Philip sends it up the inside of the corner. He's going to get there. Can the 90 get back to the bumper? He's going to lunge it into turn number 13. 1 more to go. Can Philip get the throttle down? The 90 is trying in second place, but it's going to be Philip Scott with the last lap pass. Gets past Johnny Eckert, and Philip Scott wins at the Indy Road Course. What a phenomenal performance by both those drivers, but Philip Scott just so patient in those final laps. You talked about it, just sat back, waited and waited for the opening to make itself, and he kind of forced the issue just a little bit there, but like you said, that was good, clean racing, and Philip gets it done at Indianapolis, and what a race, Garrett.
That is a World Racing Network promo package set in stone, Mitchell. You clip that last lap, you put it wherever, and we will have thousands of viewers every week. Philip Scott, Johnny Eckert, what a battle. Truly incredible, and I can't wait to talk to them, Mitchell. And I hope they're both as impressed as we are, and there's no hard feelings. These guys kept it very clean, and they gave it everything they had. But Philip Scott, my brother, congratulations on, I believe it's his first Total Nonstop Racing victory.
We're going to go back, and we're going to rewatch that last lap just for laughs and giggles here. You see them playing the games down the front straightaway, trying to get each other to move. And Philip, there were a couple of corners you thought maybe he was going to make the move into one, but he didn't do it. And he settles back in here, and he runs behind the 90. And this is the section where Philip was really good at just maintaining it. But that exit of the chicane, that's where Johnny Eckert had the advantage most of the night. And you see it even here. It looks like he gets the better launch, but Philip with the draft behind him, he's able to keep with him, Garrett. And then this is where the action really picked up on this final lap.
The action picked up on the final lap, but we certainly weren't lacking for any action throughout the race. This is just, it's like, I don't know how you explain it. It's almost like dancing. Who's going to lead? Who's going to follow? And it's just, it's almost poetry in a way, watching these guys do battle. And Philip Scott ends up pulling off the pass. And Johnny Eckert, though, stayed from the outside. This is obviously Philip has preferred position here as we're watching this replay. And Johnny was able to pretty much keep it right where he needed to give himself a chance with a slight bobble from the 99 and enough of a launch in the 90 down the front stretch to make it a drag race. And so close to having a photo finish, and what a tremendous last lap. Kudos to everyone here at Total Nonstop Racing.
And it was just so close, too. The 90, if he could have been just a little bit closer, he might have been able to get to the back bumper of Philip Scott. And we have ourselves a whole other finish there through the final corner. But you can't say in this race that the two best cars didn't finish 1-2. Those two ran with each other all night long. And we're going to get to talk to both of them here in the WRN post-race show here. Going to line up the interviews. The first driver we get to talk to, though, we didn't show everybody else too much, but it is DJ Weeks, driver of the 97, man. A great podium finish for you at Indy here tonight. Now, on the broadcast, we were watching that battle for the lead quite a bit, but You had a very clean, consistent night. Whenever we checked in on you, just slowly making your way up, running clean laps, and you're going to come away with another good finish this week.
Yeah, I mean that's the plan, right? On road courses, you figure out who's got pace and where you fit in. And I knew it was close to one stop it, so I went into fuel saving mode pretty early. And when I saw two guys pit in front of me, I'm like, okay, well maybe I have a shot at a podium, and here I am. Luckily got it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how difficult this race is going to be compared to what we normally do in every other race of the season when we're on an oval. How do you prepare to come into a race like Indianapolis Motor Speedway? Is there more practice and preparation that's involved in this race compared to a normal race week?
I mean, I think some people practice a little bit more. Luckily for me, I've ran quite a few races here in this car. Actually, I think I ran a league race here a couple months ago. A lot hotter, a lot slicker, so it was really dangerous. But yeah, and then I think, like I said, you get into practice and you figure out where people are on pace, and you just you race with yourself. You don't really race them, because if you do, you're gonna end up locking up. I haven't raced with these guys a lot. And, I forgot who was behind me. He was faster, and I was fading a little bit, and he would never pass me, and I ended up locking up into turn one, trying to let him go. And but again, you just race yourself, unless you're like Johnny and Philip, who just walk the field, kind of just hang around.
Yeah, well, certainly tonight, if you're racing yourself, you did a really good job at it. Next week, we're headed for Daytona for a double header. That's going to be a big change of pace from the road course. Are you looking forward to going back to a plate track?
No, short. No, I don't usually survive plate tracks, so I expect to either be in the wall or maybe in the back. So, are we running the road, or is it double ovals?
Double oval, right, Garrett?
Yeah, double oval, like half and smaller races. I think they're about 40 laps each or so. We're gonna do so. It'll be crazy.
I think like my average finish at Daytona is like 30th. It feels like it's just I usually get wrecked. So don't run bad. Just always get caught up in the big one. But you never know. Who knows? I might be able to sneak away with one.
We're looking forward to it, and even if race number 1 doesn't go well, you get a whole other race, re-rack it, do it again. So a lot can happen next Monday night. Before we let you go, though, DJ, give you a chance to give some shout-outs to anyone who might be watching out on WRN.
Yeah, I'm still new here, so thanks to all the league admins that let me come and race. Thanks for you broadcasting. I can't wait to see some epic fails by me on the broadcast. Maybe you got me messing up somewhere. Thanks to my teammates, Johnny Eckert and Jake Bustos. They've helped me get better on road, so hopefully it showed up in the results. And all the competitors tonight, it was fun. Everybody gave room. Everybody was clean. So can't wait for next week.
We can't either. Thanks for stopping by and chatting with us. And again, congratulations on a solid 3rd place here tonight.
Thanks, guys.
That was DJ Weeks, your 3rd place finisher here tonight at the Indy Road Course. We've seen a lot of speed from him in his first 2 starts. Garrett, gonna transition now to these top 2. I know these are much anticipated interviews, and we're gonna kick it off with an ID of Johnny Eckert.
Johnny Garrett up here in the World Racing Network booth. You almost held off that 99, brother. What was going through your head those last couple of laps as you had the lead?
I don't even know, honestly. I don't know. I have absolutely no clue what was going through my head. I just felt like I had it under control, and then it didn't. So
You had a very fast number 90 out there tonight. Was there any place in particular you felt that you were a little bit behind the 99, our eventual race winner, or did you think it was just a matter of him catching you where he caught you there at the end of the race, and just you guys are on pretty even footing?
I was managing my stuff well, and I I only really had trouble in the final corner. 'Cause sometimes, going down the back stretch, just getting powered down, but it was, I felt like I was pretty in control of what I was doing. Um, I was trying to save some fuel, managing the gap and whatever, and I honestly have no idea how he even got the opportunity. So I'm really gutted.
Yeah, that's a tough way to lose one, but you at least have a win in the bank from last week. And to be fair, and might be a secret, Philip is an actual ninja. He was on American Ninja Warrior, so him sneaking up on you should be nothing uh, of a surprise if you get to know him. But leaving the road course, headed to pretty much the complete opposite thing of a road course, going to Daytona for a doubleheader next week. You have a couple very fast teammates in the field. Do you think that's going to play to your strength?
Yeah, as long as I don't get destroyed before the final lap, anything's possible. So we'll see what's up when we get there, and let's make it to the white flag and see where it goes from there.
Yes, for sure. We usually have, I'm going to jinx it, but we usually have pretty clean plate races here at TNR. So I'm hoping for it to be clean. And if you guys could get together as a team, I definitely think you'll have a shot to come home with a victory and make up for what you missed out on tonight. But before we let you go, obviously it's great having you here, Total Nonstop Racing. Now that we know that you're the real Johnny Eckert and not an imposter, that's also great. But so I give you the floor. The time is yours if you want to give any shout outs to your sponsors and friends and family.
Yeah, thank you guys for putting on the broadcast and to the league, and their admins for all the work that they put in. Thanks to my teammates DJ Weeks and Jake Bustos for all that they do. Yeah, it's been a rough week for Outlaw, but we'll keep pushing, and I don't know, a little bit of some trials and tribulations will turn into good results eventually. So we're, I guess, a checkered flag in this case, but yeah, looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, we look forward to having you. Congratulations on second place, and we'll see you at Daytona. And I actually might be on track next week, so just stay away from that number 7 car if you see me out there.
Well, we'll be glad to have you on track.
All right. As we let Johnny get back to his team debriefing, I believe Mitchell Adams has caught up with Ninja Philip Scott in victory lane here in Total Nonstop Racing at a road course. Mitchell, have all the fun in the world, and Philip is going to talk for at least 20 minutes. So good luck.
I heard that.
Yeah, Philip Scott, man, you had me and Garrett all race long on the edge of our seats. Just take us through the final laps and
Oh,
what was
man.
going through your head. First, and congratulations on the race win, too, by the way.
Yeah, so yeah, Johnny is super fast. I'm so happy he's in the league because it's a blast racing against him. So in the first part of the race, first half, so I figured he was on the same strategy as me. I didn't want to say anything, but I knew that I could do it with one stop. And I had a feeling that the Outlaw guys were gonna as well because they waited until the very last second to grid up, and I gridded up, but I just shut off the engine. Yeah, we're clutching everywhere, fourth gear, all on the pace lap, just trying to make sure that we had enough to squeeze it out. And at the start of the race, it was tough. I was trying to save my stuff and ran a little wide, but I realized that was fine. I can just regroup and save my tires and stuff, save fuel, and eventually I got back around and I was following Johnny, and I realized he was starting to slide a little bit. And because I was really saving my tires early on, it was a lot better on the first stint then. But the issue was when I came out of the pits the second time, he was chasing me, so a lot harder to see your stuff when you don't have a rabbit in front of you. And so I definitely didn't have as good of tires there. But when he tried to pass me with, wow, no, like 5 to go, something like that, 6 to go, I mean, I tried to fight a little bit, but not really. But I'm like, ultimately, I'm just like, I know how these cars feel when you try to push them, and so I just try to lay back but still keep a good pace. And I was just analyzing every little tiny spot that I had an advantage, and especially with saving tires. And then last lap, yeah, I knew that I had that little coming onto the oval part, like that. I'm not sure what the turn number is, but part where I dove it in, I knew that I felt good there making a move if I got enough traction, because I did that on John earlier in the race, Canizaro. And yeah, so I dove it in there, had a little contact. I was trying to keep it as close to the inside as possible, but I made sure to give him as much room as I could. And I knew that when I made that lunge into the braking zone, I knew that he was going to be at my bumper, and I just prepared for it. I felt a thud, and I knew he was going to try everything to get around me around the outside or inside, just on the last corner, and I just got the tried to just get the power down smoothly, no flooring it or anything, and thankfully it was just enough.
We saw you at the end of that first run. You really just found a lot of speed in those last couple laps on the tires compared to that 90. Were you kind of expecting the similar thing to happen where you would pull away by a couple seconds going into that final run? Because we up here in the booth, we were kind of waiting and waiting and waiting for you to just shoot out of the cannon, kind of like you did in the first run. Were you kind of thinking the same thing coming into those final laps?
Not really. I knew, because I was trying to save my stuff on the outlap, and I knew that he was going to start trying to really push and go for a steady pace because he gained a bit of time on me on the outlap and then the next lap after that. And so I knew that it was a matter of time, because 3 seconds isn't a lot when you're in these cars that handle like bricks and you gotta brake for like 500 feet. But so I knew 3 seconds wasn't a lot, so I knew that you could close that up quickly. I was just trying to save my stuff, but at the same time, when you're out in front, you want to keep it, and goes against everything you do as a racer to like try to settle in, and that was a big test for me today. And so when he started to really get closer, and I realized I was subconsciously really sliding my tires, and I was just like, all right, I've got to go my own pace, and thankfully it all worked out. But yeah,
I don't think we realized how close you guys actually were to splitting at 20 laps in. Was there any fuel concern for that final run that maybe you weren't going to be able to make it to that checkered flag?
less than the first one, because the first one, of course, he had the pace lap, so I knew that I knew about the fuel numbers. So it wasn't as much of a concern, but I knew that I didn't have to I couldn't, floor it every turn. Yeah, I still had to do a little bit of fuel saving that last run. And also the benefit of fuel saving is, of course, you save tires a lot more, because most of the wear in these come from braking and acceleration. So just being smooth with that helped with the tires as well. But yeah, I think I had about I think I saw 0.4 laps left. But I tried to drive back to the start finish line, do donuts, and I ran out of fuel. So yeah.
Garrett, I'll give you a chance. If you've got anything to ask our race winner tonight, go ahead and take it over.
I don't have anything to ask him, Mitchell, but man, Philip, I'm proud of you, man. This is as exciting as I've ever seen a road race, and I could not be more proud of you. And I know you have a bunch of friends who always come in our chat and cheer you on, and
Yeah.
it has to feel good for them too. And this is the first win in the GNS car here in TNR, but you had one in the Cup car last season, correct?
Yeah, I won Sonoma last season. That one wasn't streamed, but it was one day I should upload the replay of it, because it was a slobber knocker, as Jim Ross would say. It was me versus because Peter Short came out of somewhat retirement and battled, and it was great. Me and then him and then Bustos, we were all battling like crazy there. So it was that was a fun one. I should upload it at some point. But yep, this was my first GNS one, which is crazy to think of, because I think this is my third year in TNR. So awesome.
I actually, when you rewatch this broadcast, I told the story about how we first met you at Watkins Glen doing like a pickup race out of nowhere. And Philip, if you could get that replay up from your first win, maybe I could convince Mitchell here to we'll dub it we'll do some commentary over it. I think that'd be pretty fun. We could do here for our viewers here on the World Racing Network.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really fun race. So yeah, definitely. Yep. I know I've talked a lot, but
I expect nothing less. I figure we could fill at least the next 8 minutes, get us right to 10 o'clock here. But
oh, true.
I think
Content.
I think we'll let you go celebrate. You certainly deserve this and have earned this. So give your shout outs and go take a rest, man. We're gonna need you double duty next week at Daytona. So I can't wait to see you on an oval again and out there
Yeah.
mixing it up.
Yeah, actually, it's triple duty at Daytona because NSRA trucks are going to be at Daytona on Friday, so going to be a lot of Daytona, and I'm not really a fan of plate races, so but that's kind of the fun of it for me, you know. I like to just try to go for it. I used to try to stay in the back, but now I just try to go for it and let the chips fall where they may. But anyway, yeah, shoutouts. Obviously, some of my friends like Alex and Brandon and Colin and all those guys that watch my races, and it's always awesome when they care about my stuff because generally they wouldn't care about racing otherwise. But actually, one of my friends that watches my races, Brandon, he actually signed up for iRacing now, and now he's like, it's a lot of fun because me and him. Actually, he's in D class now, but me and him raced at Bristol Dirt because I don't care about my dirt license, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, shout outs to my friends for supporting me, and shout out to World Ninja League. Check us out on worldninjaleague.org and YouTube. We got some cool stuff coming, so stay tuned.
Well, definitely congratulations, Philip, on a fantastic run here today. Best of luck to you in the doubleheader next week at Daytona.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Garrett, I think you and I have said it a lot during this broadcast, and we can't say it enough just how impressive the race was. And you wouldn't normally expect the road course to be so entertaining down to the wire. They rarely are on iRacing, but these drivers in the Total Nonstop Racing League, they know how to put on a show, and again, this Monday night just did not let us down at all.
It didn't let us down. They put on a show. It was a fun, clean race to the very end, and I'm just proud of everyone, and what a difference a week is going to make, Mitchell, because next week, it's equal playing ground. Some guys tonight struggled turning left and right. Next week, they're going to feel like they could win the race, and that's what makes Daytona beautiful. But don't take this race for granted. I very rarely will watch a road course race over again, and the first thing I'm doing tomorrow is when I go to work and I start getting paid on the once I punch in, I'm turning this race on, I'm watching it again. It was that good, and it was an absolute pleasure being up here in the booth with you.
Yeah, definitely glad we broadcasted this one, Garrett. I think we have to broadcast all the road course races. Not that we have any more this season, but, this was definitely a very good race. And we'll take you through the finishing order here from the Indy Road Course 100, as it's been called. Philip Scott, again, picks up the race win over Johnny Eckert in second. Those two put on a show for us here tonight, the class of the field. Then third place was DJ Weeks. We talked with all three of those drivers on the podium. In fourth place was Bill Edwards in the Fatal Concepts number 5 machine. John Cannizzaro, the wild child, surfaces for the road course and comes home with a top 5. Not a bad showing for him, and some laps led too. Jake Bustos finishes in the 6th position. Tristan Maher in 7th. The first car 1 lap down. That's just how fast your race leaders were tonight. Mike Floppy Tellier finishes in 8th place. I believe he's the big mover tonight, 16th to 8th. Paul Bilson came back through the field a little bit to finish in 9th place. Jamar Dumas rounded out your top 10 and the cars 1 lap down. Then it was Bob Giaquinto in the Tabletop Trio machine, finishing 3 laps down in 11th. Again, big thank you to Tabletop Trio, since we couldn't give away any Lucky Dog awards tonight. Robert Tripp finishes in the 12th position. Jason Schue comes home 13th. Vincent Valvano in 14th, 10 laps down. James Lorello ended up 24 laps down in 15th. We saw him with the big contact into the wall. And then Matthew Rodriguez didn't finish this race in 16th. And that rounds out the 16 drivers who started tonight's race at Indianapolis. But Garrett, before we sign off here tonight, any other thoughts you want to slip in the broadcast?
No, thanks everyone, and I'm gonna send out some reminders next week. Let's get an even bigger field. I appreciate everyone who showed out here tonight, and please send some flowers to Matthew Rodriguez's hospital bed, because he'll be there a while after that impact.
He put on a show for us with that wreck he did down into turn number 1. Again, like Garrett said, next Monday night at Daytona, doubleheader of Daytona plate racing. It's going to be quite the show, so make sure to tune in once again at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time on the World Racing Network for that one. Thank you to all the sponsors of the TNR Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue Lawn Service. Of course, Schue Lawn Service, Tabletop Trio, Stay Tuned Sports, and everyone else who helps make this possible. Thank you to you all for watching as well. We hope you enjoyed, and again, make sure to tune in next week. Should be one heck of a race. For all of us at the World Racing Network, myself, Mitchell Adams, my broadcast partner, Garrett Gleason, thank you all for tuning in tonight. We look forward to seeing you at Daytona in 1 week's time. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you next time.